Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakya Chakshur-militam yena tasmai Shri-Gurave Namah. This and the next verse, this verse and the next verse recommend moderation in yoga practice. The next verse is as follows: Yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karamasu yukta svapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukhaha. Please give the translation. Well, I'll spell. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So this is common sense advice. Even apart from practicing yoga, just to live healthily and in this world, it's good not to eat too much, eat too little, sleep too much or sleep too little. Now in one sense, the path of bhakti seems quite extreme. Lord Krishna says, Sarvadhaman parityaja mamekam sharanam raja. Give up all other varieties of religion and just only surrender to me. There are many such statements of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad-gita. Ananyas chintayanto mam, always thinking, he's recommending always thinking of Krishna. So this seems quite extreme. You shouldn't think of anything except Krishna. So people, they often think, well, we should be balanced. Little bhakti is good, but not too much. You see, eating is good, but not too much, and not too little. Sleeping, not too much, and not too little. So also bhakti, not too much, and not too little. It's good to do bhakti, one should do bhakti, but not too much. Some people claim like this. We should be balanced. See, a little bhakti, a little bhukti. Bhukti means sense enjoyment. A little TV, cinema. But Krishna says, Savadhaman parityaja mamekam sharanam raja. Abandon everything else and just surrender to me. So it's good to be balanced in our material activities so that we can fully surrender to Krishna. Actually, there's no balance between material life and spiritual life. Often people ask, what is the balance between material life and spiritual life? So I always answer that the balance is 100% bhakti and everything else nothing. But because we're not ready for that, then we should execute activities in this world in a manner that is favorable for coming to the platform of 100% bhakti. So I may say, well, even if you see you're sannyasi, you don't have any material duties, but still you have to brush your teeth, you have to do something for the body, at least. Even a sannyasi eats and sleeps. But for one who has fully dedicated his life to Krishna, even brushing the teeth is considered devotional service because it's done to maintain the body so that the body can better serve Krishna. So it's not directly a devotional activity, but because it's done ultimately with the aim of serving Krishna, then it's counted within the realm of bhakti. Vaidiki lokiki chaiva. What is that? Ya kriya kriyate mune. Hari bhakti anukul. Hari bhakti anukul yaiva. Everything that we do, whether it's according to the Vedas or simply just ordinary worldly activities, that should be done simply in a manner that's favorable for bhakti. So it's not that everyone brushing their teeth is bhakti, but if one's life is dedicated to Krishna, that's counted within bhakti. And devotee cultivates a sense of detachment from this body. Because he knows, I'm not the body. That's the first teaching of Bhagavad-gita. But at the same time, within this world, we have to serve Krishna through the means of this body. And therefore, this body should be maintained for the service of Krishna. So on one hand, we should be callous to the body. On the other hand, we should be, or on the other side, we should maintain it for the service of Krishna. So how do these two things balance? Someone may go, for 2 hours every day to gymnasium and do exercises because I have to keep the body fit for serving Krishna. They go for 2 hours exercise, 2 hours massage, and then daily checkup by the doctor. And there's no time for serving Krishna because they're just too busy looking after the body. So it requires some sense of understanding what is the proper thing to do. Just like often we see devotees, they're very enthusiastic to preach Krishna consciousness. Just like Akinchan Krishna Prabhu is very enthusiastic to preach Krishna consciousness. Someone else could translate that. I think everyone understood.
Akinchan Krishna Prabhu Krishna Bhakti
Akinchan Krishna Prabhu Adhikamana Utsaha Krishna Bhakti Prachara, something like that. So running here and there and not concerned with so much traveling, rough traveling, and prasad sometimes not, odd times, not sleeping properly, and then after some time the body gets sick. I mean, it's not just him, there are many cases. You can say there are many cases of devotees who have done like that. So, it's probably better to slow down a bit and not stop preaching, but look after the body a bit, so take a little care for the body so that it can go on more time for serving Krishna and in better shape. Because it's difficult to preach properly if you have a headache and you're feeling sick. It becomes difficult. And if another thing, people might think, well, if our devotees are sick all the time, what's the use of being a devotee? That may be a neophyte person's outlook. Once one of our devotees, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, he was eating very little and was very, very thin. So Srila Prabhupada told the sannyasi who was overseeing him that you tell him to eat properly, otherwise people will think our movement is too austere and they won't want to join it. Another time Srila Prabhupada saw one, he was a Western devotee in Mayapur, he just had jaundice and he was very thin. So Srila Prabhupada told the temple president there that you must personally make sure that he eats plenty so that he can gain weight. Prabhupada didn't like to see him looking so thin. On the other hand, Srila Prabhupada wrote in one of his purports that to be very fat is not good for spiritual advancement. We have heard that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, sometimes one of his big, strong sannyasi disciples, very tall, huge, you can still see the photo, he would pinch him and say, are you eating ghee? So, to be very thin or to be very fat, these are generally not considered very good for practicing yoga. Of course, some people's bodies are like that. I mean, people are always telling me that I'm very thin, but, what am I supposed to do? If I eat more, I can't digest it. And some people, their bodily constitution is such that even if they just eat a little, they'll always be very big. So not to eat too much and not to eat too little. What is too much for one person and too little it'll be different for different people. That for one person, some person may eat twice as much as the other because he can digest and he needs that much. His bodily need is like that. But eating out of greed, that is not conducive for bhakti. Srila Prabhupada, he said that just like Bhimsen, one name for him is Vrikodara, means who has a stomach like a wolf, means seems to be always hungry. So Prabhupada said, you can eat like Bhim, but then you should perform activities like him also. To eat like Bhim and sleep like Kumbhakarna, that's not good for bhakti. Generally, People who eat a lot, they sleep a lot. Very nice life. Eat nicely, sleep nicely. But generally it's recommended to try and follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis. Nidra, who are the 6 Goswamis? Who can say? Sanatan, Rupa, Jiva Goswami, Bhatta Raghunath. Where's Bhatta Raghunath Dasa? Gopal Bhatta. Where's Gopal Bhatta from? From Sri Lanka. Alright. So about them it said, Nidrahara Vihara Kadi Vijito. They conquered over eating and sleeping and all bodily demand. About Raghunath Das Goswami, it said that he would take a little buttermilk in his hand and a few chickpeas. That would be he'd take that every day or every 2 days. And the 6 Goswamis, they would sleep very little, maybe for 1 danda, which means 1 danda means 48 minutes. And even their sleeping means they're dreaming of Krishna. But that, as Srila Prabhupada explained, that is not to be imitated. It used to be a fashion in ISKCON to try to forcibly cut down our eating and sleeping. Actually, there wasn't so much emphasis on cutting down eating because devotees used to have wonderful appetites. They used to have amazing appetites. In the Western countries, the taking prasadam was a great attraction for many people to come to bhakti. But devotees used to, many used to forcibly cut down on sleeping. They'd do service until late at night, 11 o'clock, and then they'd get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And they were very enthusiastic to serve. This was quite common. But the problem is you might not be able to serve properly, or you might get very sick if you do that for very long. And devotees would regularly get in road accidents from falling asleep while driving. Once I had the experience, we were distributing books on New Year's Day up until after midnight, and then we were driving back to the temple late at night. And everyone was asleep in the car, including me, and the driver. So I just woke up and saw us heading full speed toward a big tree. So I just managed to pull the driver's arm and they woke up, Hare Krishna. And it was quite common that devotees would bow down to offer their obeisances and they wouldn't get up again. I remember once in Guru Puja, I was woken up 3 times. I was standing. I was woken, So, nowadays devotees, they tend to be more realistic about this. Still we have to push ourselves. But you can't always, sometimes for the sake of preaching, you have to cut down on your sleeping or miss some meal or something like that. Just like when you all go to Tiruvannamalai for the book distribution, then you may go 24 hours without sleeping, isn't it, some of you? Because it's a great opportunity for distributing books with so many people coming, and it goes on day and night. So to take the opportunity, those who are very dedicated, they'll go on preaching non-stop. Is that every month?
Every month only one time.
Every month on the Purnima, but Kartik Purnima that's very big.
48 hours.
48 hours sometimes.
Only one time.
Yeah. So like that, we shouldn't think. We shouldn't, or we might not think that. I have to sleep and this and that. But if you can push yourself, then Krishna will be pleased. But you can't go on doing like that unlimitedly because the body has certain needs. So, as long as we're in this world, we have 2 identities. We are completely spiritual living beings. We have, intrinsically, we have nothing to do with this body. But as long as we have this body, we have to act in some respects, in terms of the body. And along with the body comes certain social considerations also. Just like sometimes people come newly to bhakti and they think, bhakti is so wonderful, I have to leave my family and everything behind immediately. But we don't generally recommend that because people are not ready for that, and there are certain social responsibilities also. It may be, depending on the circumstances. Young men especially, they may be young unmarried men, they may have that opportunity. But even if someone is very strongly inclined to bhakti, and they're married, we don't tell them to come out of the married life. Because even if they are very sincere and very strong, that would be a bad example for others who would just give up their families whimsically. Of course, Sri Ramanujacharya left his young wife and Ramanuja took sannyas. But look what he did after taking sannyas. He was the greatest spiritual leader in all of this area ever. So, if one takes sannyas just because he thinks the family life is bothersome, that is not recommended. That is not good for one's spiritual life, nor does it set a good example for others. That may be one reason, but there has to be, over and above that, the positive motivation to enthusiastically serve Krishna. So all these principles have to be understood very intelligently. Of course, older people they're married and their children are grown up, then they can fully engage in Krishna service. So, I was saying that everyone has two identities. We're spirit soul, but we're also we're not the body, but we have to act in terms of the body to some extent. That we're not the body doesn't mean that we don't feed the body. We don't brush our teeth. It doesn't mean that. We may go in the street naked and say, well, I'm not the body, so there's no need to put clothes on it. This is misunderstanding. This is madness, if you think. So as long as we're in this world, we have to think and act in terms of social consideration. At the same time, cultivating the understanding that we're not the body and that life is meant for serving Krishna. We should try to maintain health, but not become overly preoccupied with maintaining the body. Sensible eating, not eating too much, not eating too often. If some food is not good for us, we shouldn't take it. Just like we might like very spicy food, but if we have ulcers, it will be very bad for us. Actually, very spicy food that will increase the rajagun. So we should take sattvic food, which is not very spicy. So these are some points to be understood. Buddhism, they talk about the middle way. It means balance in material activities. So this is here in Bhagavad-gita. But at the same time, we should understand that the extreme need to surrender to Krishna. Is there any question about this? It's an easily understood principle, I hope. But it's often misunderstood. The devotee is not like the yogi who starves himself. Sometimes people become very impressed by someone who just starves himself. So it's good to control the senses. But in and of itself, starving oneself is not a symptom of spiritual advancement. A devotee who chants Hare Krishna and maybe isn't very self-controlled in the matter of eating is actually better spiritually situated than a yogi who is very controlled in his eating but has no bhakti for Krishna. Hiranyakashipu was a great yogi. He didn't eat anything for years. But he was not spiritually advanced. He was absolutely materialistic. That's why devotees, they do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. Even when we take prasad, we don't say that, we shouldn't think, well, now I'm going to enjoy prasad, but we say prasad seva. The idea is that we're honoring this because this is offered to Krishna, and we'll take it. We'll take this to honor this and to maintain the body for the service of Krishna. So, Hare Krishna. Repeat the question so everyone can hear it. Repeat in Tamil. Well, you can if you like, but practically you can't. The 6 Goswamis there had fully, even though they appeared in this world, they're actually fully in spiritual bodies, in full, completely spiritual consciousness. They're in mood of bhakti was so intense that they didn't even think about eating or sleeping. Here, why don't you take this mic? Because that one's disturbing too much. I don't really need a mic at all. I mean, the standard of vairagya that is being practiced is gradually come down. Until recently it was common that many, many people used to follow every Ekadashi by not taking any water. But nowadays, many people find that very difficult. Means they wouldn't, practically for 2 days they'd fast, because they'd be fasting from midday the day before, and then up until the almost 2 days they'd be fasting. And they would stay up all night on the Ekadashi night, doing kirtan, and they wouldn't stop any, whatever other activities they were doing, they would continue with that. They wouldn't take any extra rest or like that. Nowadays it's difficult to find people with even the physical strength to do like that. So we recommend that people do what is practical for them according to their bodily condition.